Let's talk about variables. When you're writing a program, you need to remember information. The computer needs to save any information it needs to remember. And how we do this in our programs is to create variables. And a variable is just a location in memory that we give a name. And in C++, we need to tell the compiler what type of data we will be storing. So the language comes with several different primitive types, and a primitive type is a type of data that is built into the language. For example, integers, doubles, which contain decimal values, char, which is one character, and bool, which are Boolean variables or true-false values. So I'm going to go ahead and create a variable that will hold integers. And when you create a variable, you always specify the type of the variable and then give a variable a name. So I'm going to call this num. And when we create a variable, we usually assign it a default value, and that kind of clears out the memory location of where this variable lives. So I'm going to assign it the value 0. And then I'm going to create a char type, and I'll just call this letter, and assign it the letter lowercase s. Notice the lowercase s is surrounded by the single quote. That is what we use when we specify a char or single letter data type. And then if we want our variable to remember decimal values, we have to create a variable of type double or float. And I will call this variable cost. And I will assign it 4.32. Okay, so the variable cost contains double values and it contains the number 4.32. So I'm going to set some breakpoints. And a breakpoint is a stopping point when you run your program, and this allows you to examine the contents of your variables. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this. And when I'm running it, the program stopped on line 7. You can see that that line is now highlighted in green. And you can see down here, it says that num is created, and it just has some junk in it. That's what's stored in that memory location. But when I step to the next line, I'm going to hit this button right here, the step into. It'll go to the next line. So now you can see that line 8 is highlighted. And if you look at the variable num, you can see now it contains the number 0. So letter was then defined, and it contains, this is the null terminating character. And we'll talk more about that later. But then if I step, you can see now it contains a lowercase s. And then cost currently contains the number 0. But after this statement is executed, you can see that it now contains 4.32 and a bunch of zeros and the number 3. We'll talk about how the computer stores doubles in a later tutorial. So once I've declared my variables, I can use them and change them. They can only be declared once, and then you can use them whenever you need to use them. So now I'm going to set num to another number, 17. And I'm going to continue on with this program, and we'll run it again. And I'll go ahead and step through quickly. And then on a line 11 is ready to be executed. And as soon as I execute that, notice what happens to the contents of this variable num. It changed to 17. So that's just a quick tutorial on creating variables in your C++ program.